Welcome to the final episode, I'm saying episode, video really, regarding the Adria E-Prix that took place this weekend in Saudi Arabia. Now, I've done my race review, I've done my preview, we've had a little chat, but something I thought I'd try out for this weekend, and I'm hoping to do it for every weekend for Formula E and Formula 1 next season, is your reaction to the weekend, because obviously you guys get busy in the comments on my videos over on Twitter, on the official Formula E videos, and I thought it'd be nice to go through some of your ideas towards the E-Prix, because usually I have a chance to say what I think about the race, but you guys don't get much input. So I thought, let's try it out. I've gone through some of your comments on my video, and I thought, let's do a little analysis of those comments and have a little discussion and a little debate about different bits and bobs. So hopefully you like this idea going forward, and if you want your comments to be featured in next episode, so that'll be just after the Marrakesh E-Prix, make sure you're commenting on the race review, and then we can have a little talk about it. So let's start off then with our first comment from Red Bull Racer. This was the top comment, as of recording this video, on my race review, and it says, let's just breathe a sigh of relief. They kept the main commentary team and just put KSI in a really cringy sideshow instead. Now, look, if you're not aware what this comment is talking about, basically, Formula E decided to do a brand new show that would go alongside the race called Formula E Voltage, and it all looked sort of a little bit strange going into it. And you guys, if you were watching my channel before you watched the Adria E-Prix, you would know that it wasn't something I was particularly looking forward to. I thought the concept was great, but I also thought that appealing to the mass market, yes, it will bring in new fans, but then there is that sort of danger area where, well, are they really going to stick to Formula E, or are they just seeing, because they wanted to see more of the likes of KSI, Lawrence McKenna, those sort of ideas? And that's something that Formula E have done in the past. They've got the likes of Zerka and KSI to go and actually race the Formula E cars, be part of track days. But again, it seems to me that you get the fans maybe for that one weekend, and then they don't watch it again. And I went into this show with an open mind. I'm going to be 100% honest here with you guys. I did go in with an open mind because I thought, for me, being a Formula E channel, trying to help push Formula E in my own little part and do it my own little way, I thought, well, it's nice to get more people involved in Formula E. And I always say as well, just give it a go. Just give it a try. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. So I thought, you know, that's going to be great. And although during the actual race, I didn't watch Formula E Voltage because there wouldn't have been any of the race commentary, afterwards, I did check it out, and yeah, it wasn't my cup of tea, to put it nicely, if I'm being totally honest. I think I put a little comment on there, and I think it's one of the best liked comments I've ever put on a video, but it was just saying how disappointed I was with the format, because they didn't really talk about the race at all. While the race was on, they were just doing their own little fun and games that was nothing to do with the racing. So new fans to Formula E, well, it might as well have not even been Formula E. There was no race commentary. I was under the impression beforehand that they'd do a little pre-show, then there'd be the normal race and commentary, and then afterwards they'd do stuff. But no, that during the race they were doing stuff. It was very messy, and I'm sure maybe if you're a new fan, you're going to see this in a completely different light to the likes of myself, so I understand that. But from a fan who's been there since, I want to say, almost day one of Formula E, it was very cringy, and I agree with Red Bull Racer's comment. It was nice in a way that they kept it separate and they didn't force it down your throat, but at the same time, there was very clear that the two hosts, Lawrence and, I apologise, I can't remember the female's name, but they really didn't know about Formula E. The female was very good, to be honest with you, and I'm annoyed and I haven't remembered her name, so apologies. But she was actually very good, and even though she was scrolling through her notes, she tried to keep it focused on the racing, and that's what I think I'm disappointed with, is that it was more of this banter, talky chat show, like the True Geordie podcast, where they do this normally with the likes of Lawrence. So, yeah, it felt out of place, if I'm being totally honest, and they did a quiz at one stage, and the question was, who won the first ever Formula E race? And I thought to myself, you know what? this could be a little bit of fun, actually. It gives the viewer an idea on how much these guys actually know about Formula E. But the three choices they had was Leonardo DiCaprio, Luke Skywalker, or Lucas Degrassi. And I was thinking, oh my god, is this actually happening? I mean, if they just put 3 drivers and they got it wrong, that's cool. That's fine, because we can all learn together. But when it's something silly like that, no, it really didn't work for me. However, I'm not going to completely poo-poo it. I'm not going to completely do that. I'm going to give it a go again next time. I think they went a little too heavy with the guest, if I'm being totally honest. KSI is obviously a big character himself, and Zerka, so they're going to try and bring in the numbers again. They will do that, but I hope next time, which I put on my comment on the video, that I hope they keep it more focused on the racing. But I do also agree that it is a missed opportunity, and I know some people think maybe I'm being salty here, but I do think it should have been someone with some Formula E knowledge, or just racing knowledge in general. You guys know I do a lot of stuff with Sean, the F1 Word. He would have been brilliant presenting that. The likes of Alex Zaffro, he would have been brilliant as well. Arava, Tim at Marduk, even the boys and girls at WTF1, you know, we're seeing what amazing strides they're doing. Even the guys at Car Throttle, anything like that. It really seems like a missed opportunity, especially because the hosts and the guests, they just didn't know anything, really. It was a sort of criticism going into it, and like I say, I really hoped it wasn't going to affect the whole experience, but it looks like the people that did end up watching that, it did affect them quite a bit. But again, I've got to balance my argument, because there were some positives coming out of this. And you look at the numbers that the Voltage show has got, and it has continued to rise over this week. So usually, even Formula 1, you know, you have the race highlights, they do alright in the first couple of days, and no one really watches them. But Voltage seems to be going on pretty steadily, and I think that's definitely because of the fact they had the likes of KSI on and put him slap bang in the middle of the thumbnail. So that was definitely something that I wanted to address, because I wasn't a huge fan of Voltage, but I feel it's something that definitely needs to be talking about. Moving on to the next comment then, ADM23, a little bit of a longer comment this time, but my first ever Formula E race, and I really enjoyed watching it on TV, so that is brilliant news there. Like I say, always give it a go, it's fantastic. I'm really hoping that Stoffel can improve after a fairly poor debut. We'll talk about that. Formula E can be a bit confusing sometimes, but with the 4-minute boost thing, I'm really glad I started watching, I think he means. Also, I really enjoyed your review of it, and I give it a 7.5 out of 10, so thanks, man. This was another top comment, so we'll break this down into almost 3 sections. So first of all, this first ever Formula E race, really enjoyed watching it on TV. And again, I always say, just give it a go. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. But I'm buzzing that ADM, I'm assuming that's Adam, really enjoyed it. And I think this was a good race, to be totally honest with you. If you saw the whole weekend, practice, cancelled, qualifying, messed up the format, that was very messy. And I was scared, I'm not going to lie, I was really scared, because if I'm being honest, even I was getting confused. I was thinking, what is going on here? Because obviously it's not a continuous show, and I was watching it through YouTube, and they end the live stream. So I'm thinking, well, when's qualifying going to be on? Because they've said qualifying's on at 7:30, so where is it? And they didn't really manage to get across very well what was going on. I had to go on deep into Twitter to try and work out what on earth was happening, but eventually we did get a strange qualifying format going, which again I thought was a pain, because I know how many people were new to Formula E. But the race itself was great. I really enjoyed the race. Did I give it a 7 or a 6? I think I gave it a 7. I should remember this, but I'll say 7. I really enjoyed it. Wasn't the best Formula E race of all time, but it went right down to the wire. And you guys know, if you've even watched any of my content, I love a race that goes right down to those final few laps, and the tension is there. Tension is the name of the game for me in racing, and if you've got that, it's a brilliant race. So at the end, his comment, he did give it a 7.5 out of 10. So I can agree with that. Definitely drama all through the race, and even the penalties as well, something that's not really brought up in this particular comment. That was very confusing, and I know a lot of people throughout the comments were saying about how they didn't really have a clue what was going on with the penalties, and the commentators really didn't explain it too well. I actually really enjoy the commentary on Formula E, and I just want to mention that quickly, is that it took me a while, I'm not going to lie, but I really like Jack Nicholls, Dario Franchitti, and Bob Barsha. I think they're a really nice group of three, and again, it takes a little bit of time to get used to, but when well, there was a race last year where David Coulthard came on. It was Berlin, and that was really clunky. So these guys know about Formula E, but I think you saw this weekend communication. I think they have had this issue in Formula E before where just the area they're in, so Saudi Arabia, it happened once in Hong Kong where for some reason, I'm not very good with this technical side of things, but the communication waves and links weren't working half the time. It was very difficult, and that's obviously one of the risks of doing inner city sort of circuits. So I think that was an issue this weekend in Saudi Arabia, and that was something that I really got my back up a little bit, because they've never really had issues like this, especially with the likes of the wrong flags coming out in qualifying. So yeah, that was all a bit tense stuff for me, I'm not going to lie. And the third sort of part to his comment, Stoffel Vandoorne, something that a lot of people wanted to talk about. And saying it was a poor debut, I'm assuming he didn't see qualifying, because 4th on the grid in that HWA, brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff, because if you've seen my pre-season video and predictions, you'll know that I'm not really expecting much from HWA this year. I'm really not. Don't think they're going to have a package to challenge for points very often. So the fact that they started 4th, it was almost inevitable that he was going to go backwards, and he did get swamped. He really did. But I've been telling people in the comments, trying to respond to as many as I can. I always say I respond in the 24 hours, so I do the best job I possibly can do for that. But I always look at Jean-Eric Vergne, the guy who got pole position in his first ever race, and then didn't win a race until 2 seasons later. You know, he didn't win the championship until 3 seasons later. So, drivers take to Formula E very differently. Jean-Eric Vergne, I think, is a brilliant example, because he was always able to qualify really well. But in the race, especially in the early couple of seasons, he never really was able to perform, never did anything crazy in the championship. And even though he was such a high-caliber driver, similar to Vandoorne, wasn't able to put that performance into the race. And now you see Jean-Eric Vergne, my driver of the day at the weekend, looked incredible this weekend. Yeah, I think Vandoorne's going to have a similar trajectory. I really do think that. Give him a couple of seasons, especially this year with a new team and an uncompetitive car. I think we can't expect too much from Vandoorne. You know, a lot of people have thrown out predictions that he's going to win this year. I think you've seen this weekend that's most likely not going to happen. But I think next year, HWA becoming a fully fleshed out Mercedes team, there'll be another new team in the form of Porsche on the grid. So I think give Vandoorne a couple of years. I think he will be in the seat to be champion one day. I do believe that, and I think he very well could be champion in 2 or 3 years, but I think you've got to give him a couple of seasons to embed himself. And I will say as well to other people saying that they're surprised that the likes of Massa did so much better, I think it's just how well a driver can adapt. Because Buemi, I mean, a lot of people I think would have said, I know Buemi's a little bit of a different example to Jean-Eric Vergne, but Buemi, he was right on the pace straight away. And now where you've got the likes of Vergne, who have, you could argue, are better than Buemi now, but Buemi was able to take to it straight away, whereas Vergne needed a little bit more time. So Felipe Massa this weekend, brilliant. And this will lead me on to the final comment of the day from Will F1. And Will F1 says, driver of the day, Felix da Costa. Again, I think that's a really good shout. I really do. It was just that penalty for me that if Vergne and Lotterer didn't get it, I think they would have been 1 and 2. But a really strong race from da Costa, and he was one of the ones I mentioned to be driver of the day. Race racing, 8 out of 10. That's a big score. Well, I say big score. It's only one more than me. I'm going to stick with my 7. But I love the fact you gave it an 8, means you really enjoyed it, so that's brilliant. And best rookie, he's gone with Massa. I went with Roland, but he has put, and something that I didn't mention, that Roland did do one race in Season 2. I got a little bit confused, and in pre-season, I did say it was for Renault Edams, but it was for Mahindra, and he corrected me. We had a little chat in the comments. So that is sort of a nice little rounding off then. So Vandoorne, again, a difficult day, but Felipe Massa had a much better day. made this sort of triple overtake, double overtake in the first lap. It was a brilliant move. Made a fantastic opportunistic move on Van Dorn a couple of laps into the race. Again, Van Dorn is really struggling. Supposed issues on his car. There's been a lot of rumours with Formula E, and like I always say, if you're new to Formula E, you're going to learn all this stuff just like many of us older fans have. There's not, obviously, because it's nowhere near the size of Formula 1, there's not quite the awareness for Formula E, if you will, that sort of advertisement, publicity. There's not as much as Formula 1, and so knowledge, things like penalties, seem to just go under the radar a little bit, which is a shame. I'm not going to lie, they've definitely got better, but they still haven't come out with any official statements why the likes of Lotterer, Massa had all these penalties, because supposedly Massa was the one at the front, well, at the beginning of the race that did the jump start, but we never got any confirmation. They just say things like in qualifying where the Audis and Virgins started at the back, they're technical infringements, which as a diehard race fan really rubs me up the wrong way a little bit, because I want to know these little nitty gritty sort of things. But I think Will F1, his comment, I mean, best rookie driver, he's excluding Roland by saying he's done that one race, so it's his first rookie season, a full season, Ollie Roland, but you know, some people say he is and some isn't, and that's fair enough. But I think I agree, if Roland's not in the picture, Massa had a really strong race, and in a car where Eduardo Mortara had a pretty god-awful weekend, Massa really did shine in that car, which was really nice to see. But that has been sort of, I suppose, I was going to say quick fire, but not really. That's been your reactions to the weekend, the top comments. So as always, if you want your comment to be featured and discussed, put it in the comments of the race reaction. And then obviously I'll be focusing on your reactions a couple of days after my race review. The next Formula E race is on the 12th of January in Marrakesh. So if you're new to Formula E and you want to learn more, there's going to be loads of stuff on this channel continuing to come out. We're going to be talking about Alonso's Formula E in the next couple of days. And of course, Formula 1 content will be back this week with Let's Talk F1, as well as the return of the Formula E show. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.